Nobody expected this from Candace Owens, when she sat down, looked directly into the camera, and said, "All right, I've stayed quiet long enough. Here's what really happened with Tim." You could hear a pin drop. Within minutes, her live stream had over 200,000 live viewers, and what she said next shattered the internet. From off-camera meltdowns, shady contracts, and messages Tim thought would never surface, Candace pulled no punches. "You want transparency," she said. "Okay, let's talk about manipulation, lies, and betrayal." By the time she finished, Tim Pool's name was trending for all the wrong reasons. The worst part? She had screenshots, and Tim's reaction only made it worse. The internet is calling it the most humiliating fallout of the year, and now everyone's wondering, was Tim really a truth teller, or just another puppet-playing podcaster? Buckle up, because this drama is deeper than you think. Number Tim Pool exposed. Number Candace drops receipts. Number podcast war. It all started with a seemingly innocent podcast booking just another episode lined up on Tim Pool's widely followed in real-life show. Candace Owens had been on before. The debates were sharp, the energy intense, but never hostile. But this time, the energy wasn't just tense, it was toxic. What fans didn't know at the time was that this episode never aired, and Candace had receipts to explain exactly why. She'd stayed silent for months, brushing off questions from fans who asked why her episode vanished. But during her Thursday night stream, she made the decision that shattered the illusion. Tim didn't want the truth aired. Not mine, not his, and I'm done covering for it. She wasn't playing anymore. Her voice was razor sharp, eyes locked in, and the footage she showed raw. Unfiltered clips from behind the scenes of the infamous unaired episode sent the internet into a tailspin. In the video, Tim could be seen storming off set, visibly rattled, muttering under his breath, "She's twisting this isn't fair." The tension was visible. The conversation had turned from a debate on censorship to a confrontation about influence, loyalty, and backdoor deals. Candace calmly asked him on camera, "Why haven't you told your viewers who funds your expansions? Why is that off limits, Tim?" He froze. That clip alone generated over 20 million views within 24 hours. In her broadcast, Candace walked viewers through the backstory. Weeks before the episode was filmed, she said she'd received anonymous messages, hinting that Pool's network was receiving large-scale funding from an unnamed, tech-affiliated donor, with strings attached. "I didn't believe it at first," she admitted. "Tim's built a brand on being anti-establishment, anti-censorship. But then I started connecting the dots. That's when I asked the question that shut everything down." She wasn't bluffing. She then pulled up an internal invoice, allegedly leaked by a former employee of Timcast Media, showing a $950,000 consulting payment to a shell company tied to an entity flagged in multiple political dark money disclosures. "This wasn't just about a disagreement," she said. "This was about the audience being lied to, manipulated." Fans were stunned. For years, Tim Pool had cultivated the image of the lone rogue journalist, the beanie-wearing independent thinker with no loyalty but to truth. But Candace claimed that was a facade, a calculated performance. Things got even more heated when she revealed text messages between her and Tim in the days after the unaired episode. In them, Tim begged her not to ruin everything we've built for a clout spike. Candace replied, "Then you should have told the truth when you had the chance." In one message, he warned, "You go public with this and you're not just burning me, you're burning everyone connected to this platform. Think hard." Think hard? Those words set social media ablaze. Hashtags like #Tim threatened Candace, #podcast puppet, and #Candace uncensored surged to the top of trending charts. Fans and critics flooded X, formerly Twitter, demanding answers. Independent creators scrambled to analyze the timeline. Some even leaked screenshots from private Discord servers, suggesting that Tim's team had edited out multiple controversial exchanges from past interviews, including discussions about election integrity, pharma deals, and classified funding links. But back on Candace's stream, the bombshells kept coming. She revealed that Tim's production crew had tried to get her to sign a post-filming NDA, even though no such agreement was discussed prior. "They literally handed me a contract after the episode, like I was just gonna roll over and shut up," she said, laughing coldly. "I tore it in half right there and told them if they try anything, I'll bring lawyers and cameras." And that's exactly what she did. With her legal team's green light, she began publishing select audio recordings and screen captures from the show's set, showing her asking Tim direct questions about the Daily Wire fallout, political influencers, steering narratives, and how much he knew about the very system he claims to oppose. In one clip, Tim says, "Look, I know stuff happens behind the scenes. But that's not what the audience tunes in for. They just want to hear what they already believe." Candace paused the playback. "There you have it. It was never about truth. It was about comfort." That quote hit hard. The image of Tim Pool as a truth warrior cracked wide open. Critics pounced. YouTubers dropped reaction videos by the hour. Conservative influencers who once praised Tim began distancing themselves. Others defended him, claiming Candace was spinning things out of context for views. But the problem was, she had receipts, and Tim's lack of immediate response only made it worse. Then, in a twist no one saw coming, a former Timcast employee emailed Candace with a dump of internal emails, one of which referred to her as a PR risk, and discussed contingency editing in case she flips during the show. She read it live on air. The subject line? Contain Owens. Game over. The betrayal was no longer just theoretical, it was confirmed. Candace ended the stream by saying, "I don't burn bridges. I walk away from people who set them on fire and act surprised when I don't let them gaslight me." She stared into the camera, dropped the final text from Tim, one that simply read, "You made your choice," and said, "Yes, I did. And now, so can the rest of the world." The chat exploded. Number Tim exposed. Number Candace was right. Number NDAS and narratives. Number podcast drama 2025. As the night rolled on, parody memes spread like wildfire. Tim's infamous beanie was photoshopped onto puppet strings. Clips of him talking about journalistic integrity were overlaid with stock footage of cash transactions. Even Joe Rogan, without naming names, posted a cryptic message. Funny how independent media has become more corporate than CNN. By the time morning came, the entire podcasting world was upside down. The internet was still reeling when Tim Pool finally broke his silence, but instead of a live stream or a direct video response, he dropped a 5-minute, heavily edited clip on his channel, titled, "Setting the Record Straight." His tone was defensive, almost robotic. "There's been a lot of noise, and I usually don't respond to drama," he began, fidgeting with his pen and avoiding eye contact with the camera. "But since some things are being taken out of context, I want to clarify." Except, he didn't clarify anything. He tiptoed around the core accusations. There was no direct denial of the leaked messages, no comment on the funding allegations, no mention of the NDA, and not a single word about the leaked internal email with the subject line, "Contain Owens." Instead, he blamed bad faith actors, performative clout chasers, and a disinformation echo chamber. Then, he abruptly ended with, "I'll be back to covering real news tomorrow." The backlash was immediate and brutal. In the comments, longtime fans demanded real answers. "This ain't it, Tim. You let us down, man. You used to be the guy calling them out. Now you sound just like them." Within hours, the video's dislikes outweighed likes by nearly 4-1. Reddit threads compiled side-by-sides of his evasive responses versus Candace's direct receipts. YouTubers, with millions of subscribers, some who had once praised Pool's journalistic integrity, began uploading hour-long takedowns, titled, "Tim Pool's Fall from Grace, Beanie Betrayal, and Why We Can't Trust Independent Media Anymore." Then came the leaked phone call. Allegedly recorded by a Timcast staffer, the audio was sent anonymously to multiple news outlets and Candace's legal team. In it, Tim is heard speaking to a show producer just one day before Candace's unaired appearance. "I don't care what Owens wants to talk about. If she brings up that Ing Varga payment or the Google affiliate deal, kill the feed. We'll edit it like she never said it." That clip exploded. "Kill the feed. Edit it like she never said it." Those phrases would become rallying cries for furious fans across all platforms. TikTok was flooded with creators mocking Tim's image as a truth warrior. Twitter, X spaces were created, titled, "Number Kill the Feed Culture," hosting hundreds of thousands of live listeners. But the real damage? It came from inside his own camp. A Timcast co-host, known publicly as Lydia, resigned live on air during an unrelated stream. Shaking, emotional, and clearly fed up, she said, "I can't sit here and pretend anymore. I've seen how editorial decisions get made. I've seen what gets cut and why. This isn't the place it used to be." She paused, and then added quietly, Candace was right. Her mic cut out shortly after. Rumors swirled that Tim's team had locked down internal systems, forcing NDAs on every employee still under contract. But it was too late. More insiders began leaking. One former editor provided receipts showing footage that had been removed from past episodes with multiple controversial guests not for time, but for brand preservation. Among the censored content, criticism of pharma sponsors, political donor names, and even old remarks Tim himself had made that no longer aligned with his evolved brand. Suddenly, fans weren't just angry, they were heartbroken. They'd believed in Tim. He was the guy who pushed back. The beanie-wearing, fence-sitting, free thinker. But now, they saw a man gatekeeping narratives while pretending to smash them. Candace had turned on the spotlight, and now everyone saw the strings. And the hashtags kept rolling. Number Beaniegate. Number Tim sold out. Number controlled opposition IRL. Number cancel controlling media. Meanwhile, Candace kept her foot on the gas. She hosted a second stream not to gloat, but to continue peeling back the layers. This time, she showed PayPal invoices allegedly tying Timcast donations to a PAC operated out of Florida. The PAC had previously backed centrist candidates known for towing the line between right-wing populism and establishment politics. In other words, the exact opposite of what Tim claimed to support. He's not exposing the Matrix, she said. He's repackaging it. Then she dropped screenshots of a Slack conversation from inside the Timcast editorial team. In it, producers discussed scrubbing episode descriptions and YouTube tags to avoid flagging algorithms from corporate sponsors. One line read, "Remove anything anti-vax or too close to Candace's talking points." Sponsors already skittish. People lost it. It wasn't just about Candace anymore, it was about the credibility of independent media as a whole. The outlets people turned to when they were sick of corporate spin had now been exposed for having their own puppet masters. And Tim? He was the face of that betrayal. More fallout came quickly. Daily Wire hosts distanced themselves. Matt Walsh posted a passive-aggressive meme captioned, "When the truth-sayers get caught managing lies." Even Ben Shapiro, usually silent on drama, made a snide remark during a debate panel. "At least when I disagree with Candace, I do it on air, not in edited clips behind closed doors." Then came the advertisers. In just 48 hours, 3 major sponsors pulled funding from Timcast. One released a statement. "We were unaware of editorial manipulation and are re-evaluating our partnerships." Another, a security software brand, said flat out, "We support open debate, not content suppression." Timcast's revenue took a nosedive, and yet, Tim still wouldn't own up. He released another statement blaming Candace for weaponizing personal conversations and accused her of destroying trust in the podcasting community. But no one bought it. Not when his own staff was walking out. Not when her receipts kept stacking up. And definitely not when the internet had already chosen a side. By the end of the week, Candace had become the most watched political commentator on YouTube. Her streams doubled in viewership. Her podcast hit Hayshown on Spotify's politics charts. And fan merch began circulating with phrases like, "Kill the feed? Not today," and "Trust but verify Candace style." The shift was undeniable. This wasn't just podcast drama anymore. It was a reckoning. If anyone thought Candace Owens was going to stop at just exposing Tim Pool's behind-the-scenes hypocrisy, they clearly underestimated her. With Tim's credibility in flames and his empire leaking supporters like a sinking ship, Candace pivoted and unveiled a plan that stunned even her biggest critics. "You want truth?" she said in her 3rd consecutive live stream. "Then it's time to build something that doesn't flinch, doesn't sell out, and doesn't get scared when donors start whispering." She announced the launch of her Truth Sentinels initiative, a grassroots media watchdog group designed to investigate influencers and podcasters who pretend to be independent while being quietly bought and silenced. The site went live in real time, flooded by traffic within seconds. In the first hour, over 180,000 people signed up. But Candace wasn't done. She leaned forward and said what everyone was afraid to ask. What if Tim Pool wasn't the only one? That question shook the digital world. In the post-Rogan, post-Kirk drama era, audiences were already skeptical of big names claiming neutrality while allegedly operating under heavy influence. But Candace didn't just drop vague implications. She had more names. Without revealing everything, She teased a short list of creators currently under investigation by Truth Sentinels, and confirmed Tim Pool was merely Target Zero. But what really sent shockwaves was the recording she played next. A private phone call between a tech executive and one of Tim's producers. The executive could be heard saying, "Look, we like Tim because he walks the line. Don't let him go full Candace. That'll be a problem." That single line, "Don't let him go full Candace," became a meme within minutes. T-shirts, TikToks, even trending hashtags like #GoFullCandace and #Walking the Line lit up the internet. But for those who truly listened, the implications were horrifying. Someone, somewhere, with real money, didn't just fund Tim Pool's operation, they controlled the limits of what he could say. And now that control was unraveling. It got worse. Candace then showed a redacted contract reportedly used in Timcast media negotiations with guest speakers. The contract had a clause that allowed post-production edits at sole discretion of producer, in cases where political affiliations or external relationships are impacted. Translation: if a donor or political ally didn't like something, they could cut it. No disclosure, no warning, just gone. So much for authenticity, Candace said, holding up the document. Y'all been watching chopped up safe takes. Not journalism. Meanwhile, Tim's team was crumbling. More insiders were jumping ship. A freelance editor named Jen posted on X, "I tried to raise red flags about edits being demanded by outside PR people. Got told to shut up and take the check." Screenshots followed, showing her flagging the removal of a segment critical of big tech, only to be overridden by someone labeled Execs External. Theories exploded. Was Exec External the same person on the leaked call Candace played earlier? And then Candace played her most damning evidence yet. A video voicemail sent to her by a whistleblower, a former editor who filmed a screen recording of Tim Pool's internal editorial calendar. On it were episode plans, but next to each title were colored flags labeled Sponsor Sensitive, Donor Lock, Hard Cut, and Safe Topic. She zoomed in and showed one for her own unaired episode, flagged Sponsor Sensitive plus Hard Cut. The notes read, "Watch Varga and Google Lines. Emergency edit ready." Now it wasn't just embarrassment for Tim Pool. It was industry-level exposure. The Tim Pool scandal had officially gone nuclear. Even legacy media outlets started covering the blowout. The Daily Beast ran a headline, "Tim Pool's independent media brand implodes under Candace Owens's explosive allegations." Politico chimed in, "Owens targets podcaster darling and donor influence bombshell." But it wasn't just liberal media piling on. Tucker Carlson, in a surprise twist, mentioned the drama in his nightly monologue. "If Candace is right, and those receipts are real, then we've all been fed sanitized truth from someone we thought was rogue. That's a real problem." And just like that, the rift widened. Conservative influencers took sides. Charlie Kirk, Lauren Chen, and Elijah Schaffer expressed concern, saying the integrity of new media was at stake. But others like Steven Crowder and Michael Knowles remained silent, sparking speculation they too had things to hide. The public no longer trusted silence. If you weren't denouncing Tim, were you protecting the same system? Candace took advantage of the chaos and released an interactive portal, the Narrative Watch, a tool that lets users track inconsistencies between public podcast episodes and unlisted deleted clips, yes, even ones buried in the back end of YouTube. Fans began uploading and flagging discrepancies, building a digital paper trail that no editor could scrub. At the same time, Tim Pool's advertisers began issuing statements. One brand pulled their entire campaign, saying they had no prior knowledge of content suppression agreements. Another demanded a full audit of ad placement. In less than 72 hours, 5 major sponsors cut ties. Tim's empire was bleeding out in ad dollars, subscribers, and reputation. Still, no apology came. No live statement. Only vague tweets like "Don't believe the hype" and "Real ones know." But the problem was, the real ones had seen everything. And Candace? She posted a simple message with a side-eye emoji and a link to her full Tim Pool receipts archive, which included time-stamped comparisons, audio, emails, and editor testimonials. "Y'all thought I was being messy," she tweeted. "Nah, I'm being accurate." As her tweets hit millions of impressions, fans swarmed her DMs with stories of other creators doing the same thing. People were ready to fight for uncut truth, and Candace was holding the torch. She promised more exposés were coming. "This isn't about beef," she said in her fourth stream. It's about betrayal of the audience, and I will not let it slide. Suddenly, Tim Pool wasn't just a YouTuber caught in scandal. He was a case study, a cautionary tale. The man who told the world he was free from the system, while privately taking its money and playing by its rules. Candace ended her stream with one final message. There's a difference between building a platform and building a fortress. Tim built walls to keep the truth out. I'm tearing those walls down brick by brick. The chat exploded, and the movement grew. The pressure cooker around Tim Pool was now ready to explode. With the media circling like vultures, fans turning into critics, and Candace Owens turning up the heat with every stream, Tim was running out of moves. But instead of taking accountability, he did what no one expected. He doubled down. On a surprise live stream, his first unedited appearance since the scandal broke, Tim tried to address the rumors, but ended up making things 10 times worse. Let me be clear, he said, pacing around the studio like a man trapped. We never sold out. We never took money to lie. And I never silenced Candace. She walked out. That last sentence was all Candace needed to go nuclear. Within the hour, she posted a clip of the unaired episode, showing Tim literally raising his hand to his producer mid-show and mouthing, "Cut this now." And that wasn't the worst part. As Tim kept speaking, fans noticed inconsistencies in his story. At one point, he claimed he never received a single dollar from political donors. But eagle-eyed viewers dug into old episodes where Tim openly bragged about diverse financial support from freedom-aligned organizations. Side-by-side videos flooded TikTok. Commentators added ominous music. One even overlaid footage of Tim's defensive stream with the words, "If you have nothing to hide, why are you rewriting history?" And just as the Tim Pool narrative reached a fever pitch, Candace Owens announced something huge, a public summit hosted by her newly formed Truth Sentinels network. The event would feature whistleblowers, editors, ex-producers, and a few creators who had once been silenced themselves. Let's talk transparency, censorship, influence, and who really pulls the strings in alternative media, she declared. And if Tim wants to show up and defend himself, he's welcome to. The event, branded The Truth Summit, sold out in less than an hour. Live stream pre-sale passes hit 500,000 registrations in just 2 days. The internet was buzzing, and every major media outlet, from Newsmax to Rolling Stone, confirmed they were sending correspondents to cover it. It had officially grown beyond Tim Pool. Now it was about the entire ecosystem that claimed to fight the system while secretly feeding it. But just days before the summit, Candace dropped one more bomb, an email chain, allegedly forwarded by a former Timcast contractor, connecting Tim Pool's media team to a PR rep for a Silicon Valley donor fund. The subject line? Candidate grooming optics. In the emails, the rep warned against letting guests like Candace, Matt Walsh, or Russell Brand speak unfiltered about 2024 election manipulation or donor transparency. One email bluntly stated, "Too much fire leads to scorched earth. Pull back the rhetoric. Pool's brand is safer on the fence." The blowback was instant. Social media lit up with hashtags like #FenceWriterTim, #Candidate Grooming PR, #Silicon Sentinel. Influencers like Lauren Southern and Bryson Gray called for full disclosure from every creator in the space. If Tim's being told what he can and can't say, who else is on the leash? Bryson asked his 1.2 million followers on X. Meanwhile, Candace kept her momentum. She released a 3-part breakdown titled The Controlled Opposition Playbook, where she dissected how platforms like Timcast use controversy to build clout but censor content to protect donors. She pulled up timestamps of multiple Timcast interviews, showing similar editing patterns, sharp political commentary magically vanishing mid-discussion. It all culminated in the Truth Summit, which streamed live across 8 platforms and pulled in over 12 million viewers in under 48 hours. The lineup included ex-Timcast staff, independent creators, and a surprise guest appearance from Dave Rubin, who stunned the audience by admitting he'd also been pressured to tone down segments critical of vaccine policies on certain platforms. "If you're big enough, they don't need to censor you," Rubin said. "They just buy you soft and quiet." But the real shock came when Candace introduced her final whistleblower, a former Timcast intern named Marla, who came with a hard drive of archived internal Slack messages and unedited footage. In one message, a producer joked, "Thank God she didn't bring up Epstein again, or we'd be back in damage control mode." In another, a production manager warned, If Candace goes off script, call the insurance guy. We're not covered for her level of heat. The room went silent. The footage spoke for itself. Unedited, raw clips showed Candace pressing Tim on several sensitive subjects, from his flip-flopping on culture war topics to his ties with third-party consultants. In one tense exchange, she asked, "You've changed, Tim. Who are you protecting now?" His response? A shrug and, "That's above my pay grade." That single phrase became the new rally cry online. Above my pay grade? You're the face of the show, Tim. Number above my pay grade. Number Truth Summit, 2025. Number expose the editors. That same night, leaked financials reportedly from an internal TP database showed Timcast received over $3 million in anonymous gifts from one lobbying PAC in just 18 months. The PAC? Linked directly to candidates Tim had claimed to not support. The receipts, charts, wire records, Candace had them all. And she wasn't done. She announced Truth Sentinels would now crowdfund a legal transparency initiative to mandate that all major content creators disclose major private sponsorships above $50,000. "If you have nothing to hide," she said, "then this should scare you not at all." Meanwhile, Tim Pool went dark. No new episodes, no tweets, no uploads. His Discord servers were locked. Subscribers flooded his YouTube community tab, demanding answers, apologies, anything. But Tim said nothing. And that silence? It was louder than any live stream he'd ever done. Even Tim's most loyal fans were turning. Comments read, "You always said you were one of us. Turns out you were just one of them." Bro went from red pill to hush money. Candace didn't just win. She revealed the whole rigged board. The damage was done. His reputation wasn't just bruised, it was torched. Candace ended the Truth Summit standing alone under the spotlights. She looked around the room and said, "You can wear a beanie. You can hold a mic. But if you're not free to tell the truth fully, then you're not independent. You're just a puppet with better lighting." The crowd erupted. And the digital aftershocks? Still shaking the podcast world. By now, the Candace Owens versus Tim Pool scandal wasn't just a headline, it had turned into a full-blown case study in media deception. And as the fallout widened, it wasn't just Tim's empire crumbling. The entire alternative media ecosystem began showing cracks. Creators who had once prided themselves on truth-telling and uncensored content were now racing to audit their own house. But while they scrambled to issue statements and upload clarifications, Candace was already 2 steps ahead and had receipts for more than just Tim. She opened her next Truth Sentinels stream by saying, "Tim Pool was never the endgame. He was the warning shot." With that, she pulled up a graphic titled "The Influence Network," a web showing how anonymous donors, corporate PR firms, and campaign finance arms had been quietly coordinating influence across independent platforms for years. And then she dropped the name of a multi-million-dollar think tank linked to 3 other top-tier podcasters. Tim Pool was the tip of the iceberg, and Candace was diving deeper. But back in the Tim camp, panic had turned into silence. All content had gone dark for days. Even his co-hosts, normally active on X and Instagram, had stopped posting. Rumors flew that multiple staff members were negotiating early contract exits in exchange for NDAs. Others whispered that Tim had lawyered up, fearing a class action lawsuit from former employees and viewers who believed they'd been sold a lie. But the most jaw-dropping twist came from a leaked voicemail. Candace received an audio message allegedly from Tim himself, sent to one of her producers at midnight. His voice was hoarse, almost broken. "I didn't want it to go like this," he said. "I never meant to lie. I just got scared. When the sponsors came in, it wasn't like I thought, and then it was too late. They owned the studio. I couldn't say no." Candace played it live. The chat exploded. He admitted it. So he's not just weak, he sold out and let it rot. Number 2 late him. The hashtags surged all over again. Candace didn't even mock him. She paused, then said, "That's the closest we'll get to a confession. But it doesn't excuse the years of deception. The gaslighting, the posturing. If you knew the truth and stayed silent, you chose the lie." Meanwhile, a new leak surfaced, this time from a whistleblower inside a reputation management agency allegedly hired by Timcast. Screenshots showed a team working overtime to scrub Google search results, de-rank critical videos, and push positive press from third-party blogs. Their internal code name for the operation? Project Filter. The leaked directive: minimize Owens' reach. Focus on audience redirect. Discredit if needed. The internet turned savage. YouTubers started running their own analyses of Tim's remaining online content, timestamping cut points and detecting audio glitches that hinted at strategic edits. Full playlists titled "The Cuts They Hid" began appearing on Rumble and BitChute, chronicling every major moment Tim had filtered to stay in safe territory. Even Reddit conspiracy subs, usually Tim-friendly, flipped on him. But Candace wasn't done. Not even close. In her 5th stream, she shifted her focus from exposure to accountability. She announced the creation of a Truth Sentinels Fellowship, offering grants to independent creators and researchers to investigate influence in media, especially those masked as truth tellers, funded by viewer donations and supported by a wave of merch sales. Shirts reading "Kill the Feed? Not Today" had sold 75,000 plus units. The fund was already racking up millions. She closed that stream with a single sentence: "If we want better media, we have to build it ourselves and burn the fake temples down." Number burn the temples. Number build better media. Number Candace Sentinels. Across YouTube, a reckoning had begun. Dozens of mid-tier creators released disclaimers on past episodes, acknowledging they'd edited certain sections under sponsor pressure. A few even thanked Candace. Others? Not so much. One conservative podcaster, clearly panicked, went live to say, "I think what Candace is doing is dangerous. She's going to destroy our entire side just because one guy messed up." But Candace responded on X, "Truth isn't partisan. If your side collapses from exposure, maybe it was never worth defending." And then came the final humiliation for Tim Pool. One of his former co-hosts released behind-the-scenes footage of Tim's meltdown during the Candace taping. In it, he can be seen slamming his notes, cursing off camera, and saying, "I told them not to bring her in. She's going to ruin everything." His producer asked, "Should we stop the episode?" Tim responded, "I don't care. We'll just chop it up. She'll look crazy anyway." Candace froze the frame. There it is, not just cowardice, manipulation. He thought I'd come out looking crazy. But the only thing that's insane is how long he got away with this. As the video played across platforms, so did the collapse of a brand. Timcast in real life lost over 300,000 subscribers in 2 weeks. His Patreon numbers dropped by 70%. And in one final blow, his monetization was suspended on 2 major platforms for advertiser conflicts of interest and hidden sponsorship practices. The independent journalist had become the very thing he claimed to expose. And Candace? She kept moving forward. While Tim scrambled behind NDAs, lawyers, and ghostwritten statements, Candace scheduled her next live stream, The Beanie Factory's final chapter. The promo image showed a microphone wrapped in strings with giant scissors poised above. The subtitle read, "No more strings, no more silence." And the people? They were ready. As Part 6 opens, the media firestorm has reached its peak. Tim Pool is no longer just a name, he's a cautionary meme, a disgraced symbol of what happens when independent media sells out behind closed doors. The damage isn't just digital. Sponsors have walked, subscribers have vanished, and the mask that once cloaked his edgy neutrality has dissolved in full view of the public. But while Tim's platform was collapsing, Candace Owens was finishing what she started: the total dismantling of controlled opposition in alternative media. The final Truth Sentinels broadcast begins with a clip no one expected: a never-aired exit interview from a former Timcast intern, nervously adjusting her mic. "There were scripts," she says. "Not just outlines, full scripts. Questions were approved before filming, and if a guest went rogue, we had a kill switch." Candace lets the silence speak. She then pulls up a document titled Audience Trust Management SOP, allegedly part of a handbook Tim's producers circulated. It detailed techniques to engineer audience trust, including inject self-doubt into coverage, push, maybe, over, fact, blame the algorithm. "You weren't watching reality," Candace tells viewers. "You were watching carefully tested illusion." And then, the final bombshell: a message thread between Tim Pool and a now-named Silicon Valley strategist. In it, Tim begs for temporary breathing room after Candace's first video dropped. "I'll redirect the narrative," he writes. "Just let this storm pass." The strategist replies, "You'll get cover, but next time, we're replacing you." That was it. Proof of compliance, proof of control, proof of betrayal. The message went viral within minutes. The hashtags "number they replaced Tim" and "number trust is dead" trended worldwide. Creators from every corner, left, right, center, libertarians, suddenly began reevaluating their loyalties. Entire podcasts were canceled, Patreon accounts purged, comment sections turned into war zones. What began as Candace versus Tim had become a digital cleansing of performative media. But even with her enemy exposed, Candace refused to celebrate. "This isn't about destroying people," she said. "It's about saving the integrity of the platforms we built, so we wouldn't need corporate news. We can't build that on secrets. We build it on sunlight." Then, in a move no one saw coming, Candace played a private voice message from herself to Tim, recorded 2 months earlier. In it, she warns him, "If you keep this up, I'm going to have to say something. I don't want to, but I will. Because this isn't just about you anymore." She lets it play in full, no edits. The internet realizes in that moment Candace gave him a chance. He just ignored it. Redemption was on the table, and he chose cowardice. And now? He'd vanished completely. Tim Pool's official site is replaced with a maintenance page. His merch store is closed. His Discord chat rooms are flooded with trolls and angry fans. His brand is radioactive. Meanwhile, Candace Owens is being called the new gatekeeper of integrity. From podcasters to mainstream outlets, her boldness is being hailed as the blueprint for real truth in modern media. A massive piece in The Atlantic titles her, "The Woman Who Lit the Fire." In the piece, a former YouTube executive says, she's the first creator to successfully launch a truth-first platform without compromising her edge. This could be the model of the next media era. But Candace doesn't take the crown. She ends her final stream in a candlelit room, speaking not to fans but to future creators. "I'm not here to build another empire. I'm here to make sure no empire can deceive us again without consequences." As she signs off, viewers notice something symbolic. Behind her, on a shelf, rests a single item, a Timcast beanie, folded and turned upside down like a fallen flag. The symbolism is clear. The beanie has fallen. The truth remains. In the days that follow, Truth Sentinels grows rapidly. Journalists, whistleblowers, former staff from dozens of alternative channels begin applying to share stories. New shows are announced, one focused solely on auditing influencer donations. Another, The Edit Watch, tracks time-stamped cuts in major podcast episodes. And then, Tim Pool returns. But it's not what anyone expects. In a dimly lit live stream, he appears visibly aged, wearing no beanie, just a hoodie, and eyes full of regret. "I lost the plot," he says. "I got scared, and I tried to protect something that didn't deserve protecting." He confirms the donors, the silence, the edits, everything. Candace wasn't wrong. She was just the only one brave enough to say it. The comments pour in. "Too late, Tim. You betrayed us. At least own it." "No excuses." Candace carried the torch. "You snuffed it out." He ends the stream with a final word. "I'm done." No outro, no sponsor, just darkness. And with that, Tim Pool disappears from public view. Meanwhile, Candace Owens launches a new initiative, Creator Transparency Certification, a public badge system for creators who meet audit standards on funding, editing, and influence. Within the first month, over 2,000 creators apply. Many fail, a few pass, but the standard is set. YouTubers begin labeling episodes with "no cut," "no sponsor" stamps. Viewers demand disclosure. The landscape shifts. From the ashes of deception rises something raw, unfiltered, honest. And at the center of that shift, Candace Owens, the woman who went to war with a system pretending to fight for freedom and won. So now that the masks are off and the curtains pulled back, where do you stand? Was Tim Pool just another puppet dressed as a rebel? Or was he a man crushed by the weight of silence and corporate control? And more importantly, who's next? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We're watching everything. Hit that like button, share this video, and use the hashtags #TruthSentinels, #Candace was right, and #No More Fakes to keep the momentum alive. If you're tired of being spoon-fed filtered truths in podcast theater, then you're already part of this movement. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications because Candace isn't done and neither are we. More leaks are coming. More names will be exposed. And in a world where even independent voices are bought, it's time to fight back with real receipts. Stay loud, stay sharp, stay suspicious.